All right. Each week we are always excited to have our former Mountaineers on the show with us, and this week is no exception as we have another great one. And those of you my age and older will remember this guy very well. Tremendous kicker for the Mountaineers, and in the long line of history of good kickers, he stands out as one of the all-time best. And we are absolutely thrilled and excited that Charlie Baumann could take the time to join us on the show today. And Frank and I got the pleasure to record this interview with Charlie. He took some time out of his busy schedule to be with us today. And Charlie, we appreciate you so much for coming on with us. And again, a great line of kickers at WVU. You're no different. You were one of the great ones. Spent a lot of time in the NFL, some of the Arena League, other things, kicking the football. And I was saying before we came on onto this interview, how I remember you booming those kicks. I remember it very well. I was in the stands watching you, and I'm younger than you are, but I was still there watching you play. Actually, I'm a little bit older than you, but anyway, we'll not worry about that right now. But anyway, welcome to the show, Charlie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. The pleasure's all mine, Greg.
You know, one of the things Frank and I always marvel at when we do these, and since we've been doing it here for a couple of years, is the things that, and we obviously want to talk about your your recruitment to WVU, how you ended up there playing for Coach Neal, and all those things. We want to talk about all that, of course. But one of the things we marvel at always is the accomplishments and the things that happen to you guys after you get out of WVU, after you leave the school, you play pro football, whatever it is you do is from that point. But it's always amazing to see what has been accomplished since your time at WVU. So let's kind of start in reverse. Let's go from where you're at now, what you do these days, and then we'll work our way back to WVU.
So I fell in here and I'm in Orlando, Florida, and I'm with a great group of people here. And there's 6 major companies here. Dr. Tom Winters is the managing partner for everything. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He's a designated consultant for Major League Baseball. He's worked up over 500 former NFL players to help assist them with their disability benefits. A program run locally by Brandon Seiler, who is a great player for the University of Florida and had played 9 years in the NFL. I met Dr. Winters through pro football, and fast forward to today, we provide all the surgical care for Florida and Georgia, all of the state inmate population. It's about 90,000 in Florida and 60,000 in Georgia. We have a city block of commercial real estate about a mile south of downtown Orlando. And we have our home offices here and a lot of other healthcare businesses that are tenants. And we also have a hotel and a restaurant. And we will be host to a big party Friday evening here in Orlando for everybody and anybody that's coming for the game at UCF on Saturday the 18th. We did this, the inaugural one 2 years ago, and it was a smash hit. I think we had 35 former players from a lot of different eras. I think I had 17 or 18 of my guys that played at least a year with me in 85 through 88. But there was a lot of people like Bernie Kirshner, who played in the mid-70s. And he owned a bar called The Dungeon in Morgantown, so we got to know Bernie pretty well. He's in South Florida now in West Palm Beach and has a place called The Snuggery, and he's doing well. But there was a lot of guys, Curlin Beck, and I think Curlin's coming back from over from Tampa. And a lot of the support staff from the president's office, the athletic office, were here a couple years ago, and I think they're coming back. We have a very, very large contingent of the Central Florida West Virginia University Alumni Association. We got a great game watch situation and a lot of people that support the program and a pretty good sized scholarship fund. And I think we help finance some of the ball players and help with their grant and aid and their scholarship and tuition and room and board and books.
Oh, fantastic. I know when you go south North Carolina, South Carolina, all the way down to Florida. There's Mountaineers everywhere, so I'm sure the turnout is pretty awesome there.
Absolutely.
You mentioned a few names of folks that we've had on our show before. Curlin Beck, one of them, and again, the accomplishments are always amazing. I was looking back and just reading some of your bio and some of the Wikipedia things about you, and I was reading about it brought back memories for me, the Sun Bowl, the John Hancock Sun Bowl out down in El Paso, Texas. And I don't know, I think you were maybe a freshman or sophomore, maybe a
I was
sophomore.
a junior.
Junior?
It was Christmas Day, 1987.
Absolutely.
On Christmas Eve, it was 70 degrees and sunny in El Paso, Texas. Overnight, a storm came in, and it started snowing in the first quarter, and there was 4 inches of snow by the end of the game.
Yep.
And they not only had Thurman Thomas, they also had Barry Sanders. And
yep.
Hartley Dykes, who was a teammate, a first-round draft pick and teammate at New England. And under center, they had Coach Mullet.
Yep, sure did. Yep.
And he was a hell of a college quarterback, and, I hate to see him get fired. He's a good guy.
Yeah. We actually, some friends of mine and I who had season tickets during that time, we decided to make that trip. So we flew to El Paso, and I'll never forget, we got the weather packed accordingly, but when we got there the night before the game, I think it would start snowing, and we were in a hotel, and we could see the whole city from our hotel, and there was no cars, there was nothing on the roads. We went down to the front desk to ask, someplace to go. Because we're a lot younger then, we're looking for a bar to go to, and we asked the guy, could we get a taxi or with somebody from the hotel? He's like, ain't no way anybody's getting out on these roads tonight. There's like 2 inches of snow. We're like, come on now. And that place shut down. So we ended up hanging out in the hotel all night. So we didn't get to go anywhere. But yeah, we watched the game, and the snow flew. And I've told a lot of people about seeing Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas. And the funny thing about that is we had Major Harris on, and I've interviewed him a couple times. And I always ask him about the last play we had when we went for 2. And I think he threw an incomplete pass. And I said, I love Coach Nealon, thought he did a wonderful job. But I said, if I were the coach, Major, I would have called you guys over during the timeout and said, okay, Major, we need 2 points. Figure out how to get them.
Yes.
Just let him take off and go get 2 points, because he could always get 5 yards no matter what. He's like, no. We had a great play. I just threw a bad pass. So I'm like, all right. I'm still not over that. I said, yeah, I flew all those hundreds of miles to see that, and then we didn't run the play at the end. So but he's too humble.
I got a good story about the Sun Bowl. Now, this will give some perspective to everybody out there, especially the younger fans and viewers, about how far college football has come with the NIL and the transfer portal and all the money that's now available to all the players. And when I was, getting ready, I'm packing for the Sun Bowl trip, my car needed some engine work. And one of my teammates, Lawrence Drumgold, told me, you know what, there's an NCAA rule that if you find your own way home, you get the market value of the plane ticket. So I said, well, what's that? They said, well, it's $340. And we can get a Greyhound student bus fare for $99. And I said, I'm in. So I dropped my car off up on the mile ground with some good friends to put a new camshaft in it. And, after the game, we go to the bus station and we get on the bus. And hey, this is great. It was me, Lawrence, Willie Edwards, and Ronaldo Turnbull, who was a first-round draft pick, right?
Yeah.
So 24 hours later, we're still in Texas. And it's the bad weather, it's everything. And I'm like, oh my God, it took over 48 hours to wind up all the way to Pittsburgh. And we get off the bus in Pittsburgh, and the connecting bus from Pittsburgh to Morgantown did not wait. So we were stranded. It's 2 days after Christmas. It's December 28th or 27th, about 11 o'clock at night. So what are we going to do? So Ronaldo's girlfriend came up to get it. Oh, great. We got a ride. Oh, wait a minute. There's 4 of us. And Ronaldo's car is in El Camino. So you got Ronaldo and Willie, and I'm in the back of the El Camino, December 27th, driving down the highway, shivering my ass off to get back, just to make a couple $100 to fix my motor. So if anybody says, well, you guys got paid too, I don't think so. I tell them that story. But anyways, I look back on that bus ride, it was a heck of an experience. I don't know if I'd
Yeah.
do it again, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit different these days.
Yes,
That's
sir.
for sure. But those are those memories. Yeah, memories. Things you don't forget. But yeah, that was quite an experience going down there. And I laugh all the time. I remember again. I was teaching school at the time, and my folks I taught with and the principals, and they would always ride because I was always going to Mountaineer games and always talking about them, and when we'd lose, they'd be harassing me. And I can remember coming back and said, I'm telling you all right now, we're going to be really, really good. I said, we've got an awesome quarterback. We just got good players. We're going to be good. And of course, they laughed at me. But a year or two later, we're in the national championship game. So, I could come out looking good on that. Frank, you want to jump in and talk to Charlie a minute? Don't want to exclude you.
Yeah, let's. Boy, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Good conversation, guys. When you look at behind Charlie there, I was looking at that degree. Being a former academic as I am, it's Cathedral Prep from Erie, Pennsylvania, and we were talking before the show. I grew up probably about 60 miles from where Charlie grew up, and everybody in that neck of the woods knows about Cathedral Prep. Great school in Erie, Pennsylvania, and the launch pad for you to come to WVU. So, talk a bit about your high school experience. You played with some really good guys, good players who went on to stardom, both in college and pros, as you did. So, talk a bit about your experience at Cathedral Prep and the choices you had to make and why you ended up in Morgantown.
So Erie Prep, when I was a sophomore, Mark Stepnowski and I made the varsity, which was a big deal. You had 120 guys going out for football. We were the big Erie Prep's the big football powerhouse. Our two stars, a lot of Polish kids in Erie, Sean Dombrowski, who was a starting wide receiver for Doug Flutie, and was on the field during the Hail Mary pass when they beat Miami. Sean's one of the best athletes I've ever seen, not just football, but basketball. He was our best basketball player as well. Our quarterback was Tom Filipkowski, and Tom went on to start at Vanderbilt. And we went 10-0 that year, and we were ranked third in the state, and we thought we were going to beat anybody. Erie Prep has since gone on to win at least 2 or 3 state titles, and they're a state title contender every year. Mark Stepnowski and I grew up on the east side of Erie. West side had the kids with a little bit of money. We were the east side blue collar kids, and so we had a little bit more grit, a little more work ethic. Mark certainly did, and the great thing about having all of these blue chip 4.5, 5-star teammates is that the stands were full of, half the Big East and the ACC and the Big Ten, and a lot of the major college programs would have a scout or an assistant coach in the stands. So that helped me tremendously. Now, it's not easy to get a full scholarship out of high school if you're kicking a football. Usually they want to wait to see how you're going to do in front of 70, 75,000 people. I was fortunate enough to get an offer from WVU out of high school. And, it wasn't that big of a deal. All I had to do was replace Paul Woodside, who made everything, was adored by the fans, and they're wondering, how the hell are we going to replace this guy? No pressure, Charlie. So, that's kind of how it started. I was still 17. Frank talked about the August 25th birthday. They named me the starter. I was still 17 years old as a true freshman.
Awesome.
And was, fortunate enough, and, things worked out, had a great cast of teammates, and, had a good 4 years, and
Any
I
were any other
can't imagine
schools
playing anywhere else.
were any other schools in the picture for you? Was it WVU only?
There were a lot of schools that were very interested, but they wanted to wait. Now, Penn State offered a scholarship, and then said, "Oh well, we signed somebody else." So there's a lot of that shenanigans that went on and goes on with recruiting. Um, I have a postcard from Bo Schembechler. He wanted me to come play in the Big House. Ohio State, a lot of the big schools, Notre Dame. I beat their starting guy, who was a junior when I was in high school, at a kicking camp in a contest at the end of camp. But again, they hey, you know what? You come in and earn the job like we think you're gonna, and then you'll have a full scholarship. Well, West Virginia says, hey, you know what? We believe in you. We're gonna give you a full ride out of high school, and let's do it. So it worked out. And half the wrestling team is from Erie. So I had a lot of friends already in WVU. And when West Virginia beat Boston College, I was a recruit in the stands. If you remember, I think we were down 20-0 at half. We ended up winning 21-20
Yep.
with Fred Smalls and Matt Smith just absolutely terrorized Doug Flutie. And then the week after that was the Penn State game where Pat Randolph ran for the game-winning touchdown. And ESPN reran that game Monday and Tuesday, and I called in sick and just sat and watched that game at home on ESPN. And like, oh, this is where I'm going. I want to be a part of this. Anything that this is, it felt right. It was a good fit. The coaching staff was, it was Coach Nealon. It was Donnie Young, who was my recruiting coordinator. Dennis Brown was, the territory coach for Northwestern Pennsylvania, including Erie Prep. It was just a good fit, and it just seemed right, and it worked out. And I'm really glad, because I got friends for life, my teammates, and playing for Coach Nealon and the coaching staff was invaluable for me, not just while I was there, but well after, Frank.
Hmm. And you had, when I think about your freshman year, Rich Rodriguez was a grad assistant, and then you had such great players. And then you have an experience that very few college football players will ever have, and that's playing in a national championship game. So take us through your experiences at WVU, especially the ones that, they're unforgettable.
We had Reggie Rembert, who was a second rounder, and Reggie had world class speed, and he was 6'6". So it made it real easy for him to catch the football. But we had a complete team. We had arguably the best offensive line in college football. And we had Andre Johnson, we had A.B. Brown, we had Eugene Napoleon. We had, great wide receivers on top of, Reggie Rembert. We had Harvey, had Grandis Bell. We had, we were just loaded. We had talent everywhere. And we were winning games. I think we beat Boston College 59-17 or something like that. We were scoring. I was tired from kicking extra points and kicking off. We nobody could stop us. Nobody could stop the major and, our offense, and then our defense, with Bobby Pickett and Bo Orlando, who's a, Sports Hall of Fame inductee. We were physical, we were tough, and we were good, and we knew it. And it was a hell of a season, and we just didn't see anybody beating us. The only game that was close was at Virginia Tech, and that's a snake pit. That's a tough place to win a ball game. It really is. So that was, out of the 11 games, really the only close game. So Beano Cook came on early in the year on ESPN and said West Virginia is going to play for a national title, and everybody thought he was nuts, except for us, because we believed that we were definitely going to be there. And, it worked out. It was a great experience. It was a great trip. And if Major Harris doesn't get hurt, who knows what the outcome of that game is. But Notre Dame was just loaded. If you look at the roster, the first and second and third round picks on their team, it's well over a dozen. It may be into the 20s. just superstars on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. But WVU was there, competitive. And Bino was right, God bless his soul. Right, Greg? He was right.
Yep, I remember him saying that, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, can't believe it!" Because back then, we didn't get a lot of that recognition. And when he said that, like Charlie said, everybody was like, they laughed. You're right. But he mentioned one thing about how good they were, and we've talked about this with others on the show, Charlie. Today's state of football, the way it is today, if you look back, I remember that your team. Our 5 starting linemen were fifth-year seniors. I think either
Yes,
all of them or all but one. I think were fifth-year seniors.
you're
And
right. Kevin Koken, John
Yep.
Stroya,
Yep.
Bob Kovac, Milt Redwine. Who else? And we had great tight ends too.
Yep.
we had a complete, best O line in football.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I've asked this question: do you think that we probably will never see that again, where there's 5 fifth-year seniors? Can't imagine that.
Well, I mean, college football has changed an awful lot here in the last 3, 4, 5 years, and I'll be honest. I don't know how hard anybody's going to work, including myself, if I'm 20 years old and I got 2 million cleared in the bank.
Yeah.
So, it's professional sports now and needs to be treated as such. I think we'll see it evolve to where the people that are writing the checks to make everything go have a little bit more say. And if you want to, if you have an NIL deal and you want to transfer, hey, you're going to have a buyout, just like the coaches. I think maybe, this is my opinion, as a business guy and someone that does contracts and agreements, and maybe there should be a base salary for all the players and then incentive clauses, play for pay, like the NFL. You perform, you get rewarded. Right now, you see a lot of programs throwing money at players who don't pan out. I think if that continues, and will force, new terms, conditions, and the way that things are done, because, I don't care if, somebody's a billionaire. At some point, they're going to get frustrated with throwing away money on players that don't pan out. And I think that all of them, if not, close to all of them, earn their money in situations where, hey, if you perform, you get paid. So, I anticipate that sports, not just football, basketball as well, will be more of a reflection of that going forward. How soon, I don't know. But right now, it's hard. We all watch C.J. Donaldson as a freshman run over people.
Yeah.
And the first thing, I was with Brian Joswiak watching the game. Brian lives close. He's down in Lakeland. And the first thing I thought of is, how long are we going to be able to afford to keep this guy? And it turns out, 2 years, and he was hurt. And if he wasn't hurt, he would have been gone earlier. Yeah. So the economics of it, it used to be, hey, I want to play for Don Nealon. He's a high character guy. Parents want to send their kids to somebody that's going to mold and shape and turn their boys into men, whether they play on Sunday or not. Most of them aren't. The degree matters. And now the only question is, how much money you got for my kid? It's a dash for the cash. We've all seen the stories, the Tennessee quarterback and the parents who, don't have a college degree, and their eyes are big and they're chasing the money. And honestly, people want to make comments and throw shade at it. I can't blame them. You know what? The money's so big at that top level. I think everybody agrees something's got to change, but I think you get 1,000 opinions on how that should be going forward. But, the talent level's never been higher with these players. That's indisputable. But what is also indisputable is the football IQ has never been lower.
Yeah.
I got my money, so I don't know. Maybe there's, it evolves into something that, the sport, the purity of it is in the sanctity of the game is restored a little bit. That's all. And that's just my opinion, guys.
No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah. You brought an interesting point, I think, with talking about the big donors. If you put yourself in that position of a big donor, for example, and you have a quarterback that, hey, if we shell out, a couple million here, we can get this guy to come play for us. Well, if he's that good, you shell out that couple million. What's going to, he comes and he is that good, he's going to be in the NFL the next year. So, you're going to spend, okay, we got to find another 2 million to get another quarterback in here. At some point as a donor, I'm going to be like, I like to win and I want to see good players coming here, but I just don't want to keep throwing out a couple mil every year for a guy that's going to be here for a year or two,
Right.
So yeah, I think that's an interesting point, a good way to look at it. And, Frank and I and others have discussed numerous times about the way, we would like to see it shape up. And you being a business guy, may have some counterpoints to this, but we talked about the NFL model and how, if you regionalize these games and bring back these rivalry games, if you will, and to visualize it and then playoffs, just like a Super Bowl, to me it would seem so much more financially beneficial for the TV networks and that sort of thing to show, say, West Virginia Pitt as opposed to West Virginia Iowa State. I would think that there would be more revenue generated based on those rivalry games than what we're seeing now, and it would benefit everybody in the end. Again, I'm not a great business mind, but I would think that would be true.
Well, I don't think you have to be. That makes perfect sense. Now, one of the big problems, I'm just going to say it, the television networks are leading all the athletic directors around by the nose.
Yeah.
And they want to say things like, the NCAA is allowing all of this to happen. And they want to say things like, we care about the mental health of the students. Well, I have a niece that's on the UCLA volleyball team. And they've got away games during the week all over the East Coast.
Yeah.
And then they got to fly back and then go to class with no sleep. They don't care about the kid. They only care about one thing. So stop pretending that you don't. But
Right.
What I think we'd all like to see, but since we're not the decision makers, the TV revenue is the lifeblood of every sport, including college football. Now, you've gerrymandered the whole country into conferences that make no geographic sense at all.
Right.
And I don't know how you unwind it. I really don't. It's kind of like trying to unscramble eggs. But if it could be done, it would be very sensible to play Pitt every year. Have Pitt in your conference, Penn State in your conference, Syracuse. Those were great games. Those were, Maryland. Maryland's always a big game for West Virginia. Virginia Tech. Geographically, what's sensible to all of us is it's just not there. It's this whole system, and then you got schools that are left out in the cold, like the Pac-12. You got refugees like Washington State, and what are we teaching these kids? It's all about money. Get mine. I got to get mine. I got to get mine. I got mine. It's not about the sport and everything you learn, all the life's lessons that I learned from college and pro sports and my teammates that made me a better human being, made me a better, more responsible person, a good husband, a good father, a good employee, a good coworker. All of that, it's out the window. It's, what? I can run a 4.3 40 and, I can bench press 420 pounds. What are you going to pay me? So I don't know the answer, guys.
Yeah, you're bringing up a good point there because it's it's even hard to imagine that major college sports is even connected to higher education. It's like it's a disconnect to its to what should be the primary driver is education. Talking about education, one of the things that again is a theme that Craig and I have found in talking to former Mountaineers like yourself is you didn't stop your education with a degree from West Virginia. Even as you were working, you went on and made sure you got 2 graduate degrees, both at Central Florida, University of Central Florida. We were talking to Terry Bowden the other day. We didn't realize he had gone to Oxford after he graduated, and also has a law degree. But and I know the second degree that you got in accounting is connected to the job you have today, but you also got a master's of business administration. So talk a bit about the education that you got and how you're applying it after you got finished at West Virginia. And also, we want to talk about your great pro career, which spans about a decade of time. And you had, I'm sure, had a number of great experiences and probably was enlightened in a variety of ways by playing pro football.
Well, I appreciate the comment, Frank. I wouldn't call my pro career great. I was happy to be there. I got to play for a little while, and certainly more than most. And for that, I'm appreciative. There were a lot of guys that I thought that were better than me, but I just continued to work. It took 3 years to make a regular season roster. And every time I got released or put on an injured reserve or a practice squad, I just worked harder and harder and harder. For me, it came down to mindset. There was no way in hell anybody was going to tell me I wasn't going to make it. I had already convinced myself I was going to make it. And I think that that's a big part of it. And, you read about, all the improvement, self-improvement, and the people that do the seminars for workplace success and everything. And, that's the cornerstone of it. It's your mindset. It's a growth mindset versus, oh my God, I got another setback, and people, for everybody that was rooting for me, there were a lot of people that were, oh, you got cut again. You think you're running out of chances? I said, no, I'm just getting started. Get away from me. I don't want to hear that. That's not how you do it, guys. Honestly, I thought I was going to play a lot longer. My problem is we don't have, and looking back at it, we didn't have the technology or the know-how and the training that we have now. And I was the epitome of muscle and balance. Well, how do you get good at kicking a football? Well, kick 400 a day. Okay. But I really didn't embrace the strength training and muscle balance and working the other side of my body. And, in college, I ruptured my quad my sophomore year. I missed I missed 3 games in my, I missed at least 3 games in college. In the NFL, I tweaked my hamstring. Bill Parcells came in to New England, and I'm battling for my job. I'd been there the 2 years before. And in training camp, I tore my hamstring, and it was bad. So I come out. It happened in practice. And in the afternoon practice, I come out, and I'm not dressed out. It was a full pad practice. And here comes Bill Parcells, and he's making fun of everybody. Hey, you're fat. You're stupid. You're fat and you're stupid. Ooh, Baumann, what happened to you? I think I tore my hamstring, coach. It hurts pretty bad. Ooh, that means one of 2 things, Baumann. One of 2 things, window or aisle. And everybody's laughing. Well, he's funny when he wasn't talking about you. But as soon as I was healthy, I was waived injured. The next year, and that did physically set me back. I was really never the same after that. And so, I was at the Jets and Steelers the year later in training camp and the entire off season. And, it didn't work out. So now I'm scared to death. Like, hell, what am I going to do now? I was so fixated on being an NFL Sunday field goal kicker and doing that long enough to retire and never really thought, what am I going to do now? And, I have a good friend who's like the older brother I never had. I'm the oldest boy out of 6 kids. Brian Candela, who's from my hometown, Erie, Pennsylvania, who still runs the campground up there on the peninsula that his family's owned for generations. But he also lives here in Orlando, real close to me. And he says, look, you haven't even figured out what you're good at. You don't even know. You've been so focused on being, Charlie Baumann splitting the uprights. So I said, you're right. So, I looked into some things, and a friend helped me get a competitive internship at Siemens, a big German company, and I worked in procurement and contracts and agreements. And I said, that's great because I did my own contract in the NFL. I mean, and my contracts weren't stupendous, and I'm like, I'm not going to give anybody a chunk of this thing. So I also enrolled. I took the GMAT, and my brain never hurt so much after that. That was like 6 hours of. I'm like, man, my head hurts. I got to lay down. They're like, no, come on, we're going to go drink beer and watch the Bay Hill golf tournament. Okay. Um, I did well enough. I got in the MBA program at UCF, and I worked all day and I went to school at night. And honestly, it was for a while. What motivated me was fear. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I got to figure this out. So the adrenaline kept me going 15, 16 hours a day, work all day, go to school all night, study all weekend. I'd be there, this is before the kids. I would have the whole dining room table full of books. I'd have the football on in the background Saturday and study all weekend, it's just kind of on the background noise. So I did that, and I was in high tech with Siemens, and Dr. Tom Winters calls me and he says, what are you doing? I said, I was just asking myself that. What the hell am I doing? He says, well, we've started this company and we have a surgery center inside of the state correctional facility. And we're looking for people to help run this. It's a publicly traded company. This is back during the dot-com boom. If you remember, everybody took all of their companies public. And so I went to work for Dr. Winters, started in February of 2000. And so that company morphed into a sister company where we have Georgia, but also Dr. Winters Medical Practice. He's still a practicing surgeon to this day. And the real estate partnership, there's 10 of us. There's Dr. Winters, there's 5 other surgeons, 2 lawyers, myself, and a guy, Greg Allo, who worked for Hyatt for 30 years. And he came and we brought him in, and he's a real estate developer and built a hotel and restaurant. And so during the interim, we also owned a minor league baseball team, the Milwaukee Brewers franchise, from 2006 to 2017, and that was a blast. And boy, that sure did help out when I had a national level fast pitch team, and I got a daughter that can pitch and hit, and I had 75 of my girls over the years that played in college, and I look back on that. I had more fun coaching softball than I did playing football, and I had a blast playing football. So, um, I had a situation where I could raise my kids and I could be at practice and take my kids to lessons and go home and work with them and work with the other kids and travel for tournaments and things like that. And Dr. Winters was always very, very supportive of that. And for that, I'm grateful for a lot of things. I'm extraordinarily grateful for that. So, pro football was a heck of an opportunity. I think Herman Edwards, who's the former player and coach and an ESPN commentator, said it that way. He put it best. He says, it's not a career, guys. The NFL is not a career. It's an opportunity. And that helped me reframe it. He's like, you're right. It isn't a failed career. It was an opportunity. It opened lots of doors. In between the NFL teams, I played for the Orlando Thunder of the World League, and that's where I met Dr. Winters. That's how I got to Orlando. That's how I met my wife, who is, world-class wife and mother to our 2 daughters. And I could never imagine my life working out like this. As good as it has, I wake up every day just eternally grateful. I start every day with gratitude. And I really think, guys, that's the secret sauce to this human existence, being grateful. And the more grateful I am, the happier I am. And I think that happiness doesn't come from gratitude. I think happiness comes from gratitude, not the other way around. And so it's been great. I like what I do. I'm 58 years old. I don't really plan on retiring. I like coming to work. I like the people I work with. I like what we do. And I like having a boutique hotel that we can host, Mountaineer Nation here Friday and Saturday for West Virginia UCF.
Greg, it doesn't get any better than that. Boy, just listening to Charlie, gets you revved up.
Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff for sure. So do you actively run the boutique hotel? Is that something that you're actively engaged in?
I've never worked in the hotel or restaurant business a day of my life. I am the CFO for all of the businesses, and I'll get involved with contracts. I'll get involved with, the accounting function. I interface with our commercial lenders, with tax prep. I communicate our business situation and our financial condition to all of our partners. And there's different partners with the different businesses, and that takes a good bit of my time. And I'm also, for the family and all the family finances for Dr. Winters and his wife and his son Nathaniel, who is a great kid. Nate Winters has his own ESPN 30 for 30. You need to Google that and watch it. Nate was in a boating accident in high school, and he was an up-and-coming high school baseball star. Nate lost his leg. He was lucky not to lose his life. He lost his left leg above his knee, and he still went on to pitch for Winter Park High School and won the 8A district champion as a pitcher with one leg. You talk about an inspiration. But a great kid, a great outlook on life, and so I'm thrilled to help be, a little bit of his mentor when it comes to, the accounting function, the finances, and commercial business in general. But Nate runs the hotel and the restaurant. He does a great job, and we're all really proud of him. And it's been a really good experience here.
Mm-hmm.
So the watch party, will you be at the watch party? You'll be there when folks show up to watch the game Saturday.
I will be. I ended up getting really good tickets. I think I'm close to where the ticket allotment is. WVU ticket allotment is. I got seats down in the lower bowl, and absolutely, hey, win or lose, whether we show up or not, I'll be there with my blue and gold for sure. And I don't really talk about that I got 2 graduate degrees from UCF. That kind of doesn't count. Being a ball player for West Virginia trumps all of that.
What's your take on the Mountaineers? I know we're struggling a little bit right now, but I think everybody has high hopes for the future. What's your feelings on the current Mountaineers?
We talked about the whole situation currently for football in general, and I think that applies. Coach Don Nealon said it best. He looked at me one day and he said, "Charlie, you win with players." Okay, coaches help a little bit. You look at Kurt Signetti, who's doing a hell of a job. Speaking of former Mountaineers, he doesn't have any 4 or 5 stars. Coaches do make an influence. I think a little more on Saturday than they do on Sunday. But when you come down to it, guys, you win with players. It's unfortunately a money thing right now, and I think that the schools acknowledge that. I think that anybody that thinks that Rich Rodriguez doesn't know what he's doing, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yep.
Give the man. Remember, the first time around, Rich Rodriguez was 3-8 his first season. We're in an environment where you got to win now. People start flying planes with, fire coach, halfway through his first season and stuff like that. So I just think that we're playing for next year. Nico's gone. Good luck to him. And it's kind of a quarterback audition. And for me, I'm interested in who still has some dog in him and who still shows up to play. And the kids that have the good body language and show up and want to play and play hard, I think you keep and you build, you help that as your foundation going forward. But to be fixated on an outcome right now, like the score of the game at, when the clocks are all zeros, it's just still a little early yet.
Yeah, I think we've come to that. Frank and I solved most of the problems in the world, and we solved most of the WVU's problems, and we've come to that conclusion as well, that it's just going to take a little time. Coach Rodriguez is going to be fine, and he's going to get it figured out. There's some bright spots that we see every week, and those are things you have to you got to build on, and they'll get better. They'll get better. Frank, you want to wrap us up, or I know you've sit patiently back here while I ramble on, but I'll give you a shot here if you want.
Well, you're not rambling on. We're getting close to the end here, Charlie. And you mentioned your wife, Michelle, and you've got two daughters that have had great athletic and other careers, Mary and Anna. So why don't we close by you talking about your spouse who worked at Disney, and then your soon-to-be Dr. Mary and Anna, too.
So I met Michelle 3 weeks. I was in Orlando, and a good friend of mine, Sharon, who was my West Virginia buddy, worked at Disney, and she and I were out one night and saw Michelle, and it took a while to get to meet her and started dating her, but soon thereafter, it kind of just all fell into place right there. Michelle is from Cleveland, Ohio, so I'm like, hey, that's close enough to home. So she had a job with press and publicity, media relations. Michelle was the face of Disney World, Orlando, for all of the print media in New York, Washington, Chicago, all of the major magazines for travel, tourism, weddings, all the, Bride magazine, everything, Southern Living, you name it, for 31 years. She had a hell of a career, and she retired 4 years ago, and she's living her best life, and I'm thrilled that she's able to do a lot of the things that she had to put on hold because she was a busy executive at Disney World. Mary had the misfortune of having me as a dad, as far as being an athlete and developing her, because I was a little OCD, and when Mary would get home from school, she knew I would be home shortly thereafter. And to her credit, all those years, I would text her and say, I'm leaving work, get warmed up, stretch out, be out back. We'd pitch for an hour, we'd hit for a half hour. She'd have strength training, she'd have pitching lessons, hitting lessons, you name it. Not once did that child say, I have a headache, I'm too tired, I have too much schoolwork. Not once in all those years. And I think that kind of sums up who she is. And she just brings it everything, every day of her life. And that's put her in an unbelievable situation. And, I wouldn't get to sleep because she'd be at the dining room table doing her homework till 1 o'clock in the morning. She went to Lake Highland Prep, which is one of the best academic high schools in the country, and put herself in a very high quality position to go on to an Ivy League school and play softball at Yale. But you still got to get in. And to her credit, she did all of that, not only the work on the field, but also in the classroom. You talk about double timing it. She's really laid some track there, went on to Duke and worked in the brain building, doing psych research for a very esteemed lab there at Duke. And now she's at Vanderbilt, and she's with Bruce Compass, the stress and coping lab. And Bruce is a world-renowned psych researcher. And she's also a PhD candidate and part of his psych research team. And she's getting her PhD in clinical psychology. And she's also working with a psychotherapist in the Nashville area, one who has let her work up all of her new patients. She deals mostly with kids and child psychology. And Mary's actually doing some clinical therapy sessions with some of the patients. And the best news I got, Frank, was when she told me, hey, when I'm done, I want to look, maybe I can move to Orlando. Would you help me set up a practice? I said, hell, setting up a back office for a small business is nothing for me. I've done that a bunch. And plus, you know what, we'll find room for you in our building. We've got 100,000 feet of commercial space here. So thrilled as can be. I'm just as thrilled with Anna. And Anna got into Tulane without sports. And she got a business degree. And Anna, by the way, was the best athlete in the house. That's including me. She's a very, very gifted athlete. Anna's focus is more with the arts and with music. And she got a business degree from Tulane. And those were fun parents' weekends and football games. And Anna now works for Benoit Glazer. Benoit Glazer is the composer. He wrote all the musical scores for Cirque du Soleil La Nuba here at Disney Orlando. He has since opened up a performing arts foundation, and he has Grammy Award winning talent plays in his house. He built a 3-story 100-seat concert hall in his house. And so my daughter Anna runs the foundation for Timucua Performing Arts Foundation, which is in downtown Orlando here. It's very close to here to our offices, and I'm very proud of her and who she is and her path. And she's very focused, and she knows exactly what she wants to do, just like her sister. So I couldn't be prouder. I feel very fortunate to have 2 great kids as a dad. And I'll be honest, my wife gets a lot of the credit for being just an unbelievable world-class mother and nurturer and being there. Especially when I physically or mentally couldn't be there. Michelle was and is the rock of our pack, for damn sure.
Awesome.
I'll tell you, Greg, when I listened to Charlie, we knew a bit about the background, but boy, it's world class.
Yep.
This is exactly when you think about families and philosophies and environments, cultures, etc. Boy, it's so reinforcing. And again, for people like us, it just makes us so proud to be a Mountaineer.
Absolutely. And like I said, early on in this interview, we've talked to a lot of great folks and are always impressed by the accomplishments after they leave WVU. Charlie obviously is no different, and you can gain that just by listening to him talk, not necessarily what he says, but just how he presents himself. So not a disappointment for sure, and always fun to listen to these folks talk and see what they've accomplished. And again, makes you proud to be a Mountaineer. And I just admire what they do and how they go about doing it. Even the parenting part of it. All of us that are parents know what that's like, and to be able to obtain degrees and businesses and those types of things, it's not an easy thing to accomplish and be a parent at the same time, and be a good parent at the same time. So it's always refreshing to hear these things. And Charlie, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you taking some time to join us. We know your schedule is extremely busy, but we do so much appreciate you.
Pleasure's all mine, guys. Thrilled to do it. And it's nice for an old guy to get a little recognition. You know what they say, the older we get, the better we were.
That's exactly right. Bigger those fish get, that's right.
I love that.
and these guys got to stop saying old guys, Frank, because, that don't really leave much room for us. When these guys are the old guys, where's that put us? So, but I'll have to say, Charlie looks like he's about 40, so must be that Orlando lifestyle, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I mean, life's been good so many different ways. I'm looking for ways to help pay it back, help as many people as I can, as much as I can, for as long as I can.
Fantastic.
That's my motto.
Fantastic. That sounds great. Thank you, Charlie, again. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Let's go Mountaineers. We appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
All right.